Have you ever wanted to explore every nook and cranny of a video game but lacked the time? Or see a game completed to its fullest in a timely manner? Join me, Dr. Otter, as we embark on a completion journey beyond the basic 100% a game has to offer. Together, we'll scratch that itch for the missing platinum trophy or the final achievement. Let's delve into the most time-consuming video games and beat them to completion and beyond. In our first venture, we'll conquer the Caligula Effect Overdose, a turn-based RPG developed by Historia, directed by Takuya Yamanaka, and published worldwide by NIS America in 2016. This game immerses players in a virtual world called Mobius, where they join the Go Home Club aiming to escape back to reality. However, the Ostinato musicians, a rival group, seeks to maintain Mobius and its status quo. To combat them, the protagonist gains the power of the Catharsis effect, allowing them to fight against the musicians and their influence. Overdose is a remake of the original game released on the Vita platform and offers the choice to play as a double agent, exploring both sides of Mobius. If you are ready to embark on this completionist journey and discover the secrets of our future adventures, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. By joining our community, you'll never miss an episode as we delve into the depths of some of the best gaming adventures and conquer every challenge it throws our way. So buckle up and get ready for an adventure like no other. Be warned though, this video will contain spoilers for the full game on Steam. When undertaking completion challenges, I have a specific approach. Initially, I embark on a blind playthrough of the game, fully immersing myself without concern for missable or extra content. However, I do take note of the requirements for a full completion and create personal challenges to keep subsequent playthroughs fresh, including clearing the game on a New Game Plus mode with added handicaps. I categorize the objectives into main content, side content, characters, and items. Main content involves everything necessary to reach the end credits, while side content comprises optional elements. Maximizing the potential of playable characters falls under the characters category, and items refers to collectibles, consumables, and treasure chests. This completion challenge will encompass 2 complete runs. In the first one, I will select the hard difficulty and play as the male protagonist, aiming to achieve the highest possible completion. As achieving 100% requires playing both routes simultaneously, I will tackle the Ostinato and Go Home chapters. The game features 3 endings, with the first 2 determined by a choice before the final bosses. The third ending, which unlocks the ability to mix and match club members and musicians, requires maxing out the affinity of all characters, witnessing their episodes, and completing both endings. Hence, both routes are necessary as 2 characters can only be maxed out in this specific route. Additional objectives will include obtaining 37 achievements, completing 523 side quests, conquering 39 optional bosses, experiencing 171 character episodes, maxing out 20 characters, collecting 60 enigmas, opening 294 soul fragments, and acquiring 713 stigmas. For the second run, I will select the female protagonist and play on the extreme difficulty, with a New Game Plus file that increases the levels by 100. The objective of this run is to obtain the remaining 2 achievements and complete our playthrough. Without any more delay, let's get ready for an exciting journey as we dive into the completion of the Caligula Effect Overdose. So go on ahead and prepare yourself with a cup of tea and some snacks, because this is going to be an extensive undertaking. This will take a lot of time. Our journey starts on hard difficulty as we choose the male protagonist named Kurotsuki. In Mobius, we receive a warm welcome from you, earning the Welcome to Mobius achievement effortlessly. The realization that this isn't the real world dawns upon us during a graduation ceremony, where we witness a peculiar repetition involving a student named Kensuke Hibiki, as well as a change in his appearance. Determined to escape this illusion, we flee to the train station where Muse's concert is taking place. However, Mew informs us that she hasn't created the station yet, as she promised someone that nobody would leave Mobius. Arya, another virtual doll, joins us and demands that Mew break the Mobius loop so they can return to the metaverses and let the human strap return to reality. As tensions rise, Mew flees, causing discontent among her fans. It is then that a mysterious student named Shogo Satake comes to our aid, informing us about other students attempting to escape, and Arya introduces herself as the co-creator of Mobius. However, her yelling attracts some undesired company. Together with Arya, we unlock our Catharsis effect. It is manifested as guns, and we engage in our first battle against the brainwash fanatics known as Digiheads. The battles in Caligula Effect involve utilizing Catharsis Effect skills, support skills for buffs and healing, and action skills for recovery and evasion. Strategizing the actions of multiple party members and exploiting enemy weaknesses becomes key aspects of this battle system. After triumphing in the battle, we unlock the Hidden Powers Activated achievement. Impressed by our abilities, Shogo acknowledges our efforts while Arya explains the initial purpose of Mobius as a safe haven for humanity created by her and Mew. However, Mew's change in behavior resulted in blocking the exit and exerting control over students through her songs, which amplified her power and weakened Arya. To seek a solution, Shogo suggests relocating to a safer place within the high school, where the Go Home Club is formed. We meet the other club members, Kotono Kashiwaba, Kotaro Tomoe, Mifue Shinohara, and Suzuna Kagura, and decide to explore the school building in search of Mew. As the prologue concludes and the first chapter begins, we earn the Go Home Club Activity Start achievement. On a side note, before each chapter we will be diagnosing our progression so that we can keep up with all the updates. The updated information will be shown in orange, and the progress will be represented through a percentage. Future transitions will be silent. The first chapter of the game serves as a tutorial, introducing various mechanics and objectives. The strategy here will be to do the story as usual, going from point to point while fighting the most enemies we can and gathering everything we find while filling out the map. After finishing the chapter, by beating its boss, we will return to the dungeon to gather everything that we miss before transitioning to the next chapter. The chapter begins when the protagonist along with their club members set out to investigate the mysterious Kagi-P, a popular musician who is causing the Digiheads to become more violent. They explore the second floor of the main building while learning about Wire, the Causality Link, Enigmas, and Soul Fragments. Wire is a mobile app found on the protagonist's phone, enabling them to engage in group conversations with club members and one-on-one conversations with other students, provided that they have interacted with them previously. The Causality Link is a system that involves completing side quests for students, raising their affinity level and unlocking their traumas. Resolving these traumas will grant a passive stigma or a stat boost. Enigmas are collectibles that reward skill points when interacted with, and some special ones are part of a specific side quest. Soul Fragments are chests containing stigmas which can be locked under the influence of specific Digiheads. On the other hand, stigmas are the character's equipment. There are 4 types: Attack Impulse, Defense Instinct, Amplification, and Passive. While Attack Impulses enhance attack and critical stats, Defense Instincts will boost the defense and HP stats. Amplifications and passives can increase all stats, but for now we will be using the free DLC ones until we reach the maximum level, as they provide us with a plus 15 experience bonus after battles, and this will be imperative for reaching the maximum level. As the protagonist explores and battles enemies, they encounter various NPCs and learn about mechanics like risk, which increases as enemies are hit, and unlock follow-up skills. We also learn about countering enemy skills, the airborne /down mechanic, the erosion rate, and breaking barriers. While searching for Kagi-P, we meet Naruko Morita, a nerdy girl who agrees to lead us to him on the third floor after Kotaro blows our cover as the Go Home Club. We also meet Mirei Mizuguchi, a responsible student with a deep dark secret that will be revealed at a later time. On the third floor, Naruko's confusion grows as the layout of it seems strange to her, and quickly thereafter Kotono is taken by Digiheads. In the midst of the confusion, Shogo awakens his catharsis effect and joins the party, followed up by Kotono. Shogo uses a revolver and is a long-range character that can abuse the airborne/down status of the enemies to dish out large sums of damage, while Kotono wields a bow and specializes in debuffing the enemy and healing the group. We continue exploring the third floor and accidentally collide with a hyper girl wearing a long dress. She unprovokedly knocks down the protagonist and Shogo, leaving everyone confused. Undeterred, we continue exploring until we reach the classroom 3-4. However, Kagi-P is nowhere to be found. Instead, we encounter Eiji Biwasaka, the top student in the class. We inquire about Kensuke, and Eiji reminds us that he was the representative for graduating students and should now be in class 1-1. Naruko becomes even more confused as her perception of reality begins to crumble. On the first floor, we encounter the first remnant of Mew, triggering one of her character's episodes. In it, we get a recollection about how it was right when Mobius was created by Mew and Arya. We also obtain an enigma from the nameless girl and decide to meet up with the other club members in class 1-1. However, we are ambushed by Digiheads who have learned our identities. The protagonist and their friends transform, surprising Naruko, and engage in battle. After defeating the enemies, Naruko graduates and is able to see the rift of Mobius. Soon thereafter, more reinforcements arrive, trapping Suzuna, Mifue, and Kotaro. Determined to save his friends, Kotaro's latent power awakens, manifesting as a pair of gauntlets. With his new abilities, Kotaro becomes a valuable fourth party member, delivering devastating melee bursts that can launch enemy without restrictions. Right away, we receive a broadcast from Kagi-P, who labels the Go Home Club as traitors and urges the students to capture them. We discover that Naruko had been taking pictures of them, posting them online, in exchange for followers on Gossipper, a social network. They quickly decide to head to the fourth floor, leaving Naruko in the care of Kotaro. On our way, we meet Izuro Minazawa, another person able to see the rift, who rejects Shogo's invitation to join the club. On the fourth floor, along with Kotaro, we encounter a barrier-protected broadcast room controlled by two Digiheads. We defeat the guards, we learn about emergency barriers and the stress bar along the way. The stress bar is a mechanic that fills up during combat and allows us to unleash a powerful overdose skill, our ultimates. Upon reaching the broadcast room, we confront Kagi-P, who is determined to remain in Mobius and rejects adulthood. We engage in a boss battle and defeat him, prompting him to join the Go Home Club under his real name, Kensuke Hibiki. Afterwards, Digiheads attempt to capture Kensuke, but he awakens his catharsis effect and fights back, taking the form of a giant claymore. Kensuke is a tank character that relies on putting up barriers and countering enemies when they are hit. He becomes the fifth party member and suggests finding the other musicians as a means to locate Mew. This chapter highlights the parallel between Kensuke and the protagonist, as both betray their initial groups eventually. During our high school exploration, we discovered our first 8 enigmas, opened 28 soul fragments, gathered 38 stigmas, and earned the After the Moratorium achievement. Before our next chapter begins, a cutscene introduces the Ostinato musicians, showing a student being brainwashed into becoming a fan of Mew again. The leader of the musicians orders them to capture every member of the Go Home Club, and we catch a glimpse of future chapter pairings. In the club room, Chogo nominates us as the new club president, and Kensuke suggests searching for a sweet pea. a musician known for her girly and innocent appearance at the Papiko shopping district by attending one of her tea parties. Mifue volunteers to be our infiltrator. We also engage in our first character episode with Kensuke. It's an event where he reflects on the artificial nature of his moments as a musician. As I mentioned earlier, after completing a chapter, I revisit the previous dungeon to ensure its completion. Despite the scarcity of information about this game, I meticulously battled every enemy on the 4 floors of the high school and registered their initial drops. This required a considerable effort and time, but it was a necessary evil. As a result, we became overleveled, making most normal battles trivial. During this farming session, the achievement Chat Pro was earned. I followed a similar approach with the Causality Link students. Some students remained stationary, while others roamed the map, making it challenging to ensure that we encounter all of them in each dungeon without external sources of information. Fortunately, there are helpful resources that I will link into the description. I created my own spreadsheet to keep track of the students and my progression. After a total of 13 hours, we located 126 students, unlocked 47 traumas, and collected an additional 34 stigmas. Our progression is the following. The second chapter begins with our arrival at Papiko. However, as we enter the lobby, we are chased by enemies, forcing the protagonist and Mifue to venture into the general goods area alone. Inside, we meet Rose, one of the flower princesses of Sweet Pea. Strangely, Mifue is confused by Rose's popularity amongst male students due to her weight. The situation agitates Mifue to the point of her awakening her catharsis effect. It takes the form of a hammer, and she becomes a melee DPS character who raises enemy risk levels to abuse it. We discover that Sweet Pea's tea party is being held at a shop called March Hare. To gain entry, we must obtain the recommendation of the 3 flower princesses. Despite Mifue's discomfort, we decide to find Rose and learn whatever she wants. However, before meeting Rose, we encounter the second Mew remnant. In it, we get an insight into Mew's initial conflicted feelings when the plan to trap everyone in Mobius began. After battling and exploring the area, we finally meet Rose. However, before we can speak with her, we encounter the girl who previously knocked us down at the school. Although she claims to be safe, she becomes fearful upon seeing the protagonists Shogo and Kotaro running away and accusing us of being perverts. We eventually talk to Rose, who tasks us into finding something dreamy cute to gain her approval. We speak to several shop clerks in the area and eventually decide to get a cake dessert for Rose. She accepts it happily, granting us her recommendation, but Mifue continues to feel uncomfortable. Moving on to the men's area, we meet the next princess named Lily, who again faces rude comments about her weight. Mifue asks for her recommendation and she tasks us with defeating her 4 heavenly kings to earn her approval. We successfully defeat them, receiving a world reward password in the process. These rewards are passwords that open door, each requiring 3 passwords, hiding optional bosses that yield powerful stigmas upon their defeat. While the drop rate of the password is extremely low, we easily find them online. After completing these tasks, we continue our journey to find Iris, the 3rd and final princess. We explore, battle, and gather in each area, and we earned 2 new achievements. The Friend Groupie for viewing the field wire 10 times, and Scars Left Behind for collecting over 300 stigmas. When we meet Iris, she tasks us into helping solve the trauma of an NPC in the area. After locating the necessary enigma, Happy Doll, and resolving the trauma, we gain a small stat boost. We dismiss the NPC and proceed to speak with Iris, who provides us her recommendation and reveals the real identity of Sweet P as Shizuka Nijoin. By this point, we have unlocked the trauma alleviation process. Before meeting Sweet P, we meet the nameless girl a second time after encountering one of her enigmas, and she states that she cannot remember her name. To reach March Hare and speak with Sweet P, we travel to the women's area while exploring the map. Along the way, Naruko spies on us and agrees to help gather information on Sweet P and Shizuka Nijoin. Naruko reveals that Sweet P is a cute small girl, but Shizuka Nijoin, the real identity of Sweet P, is a fat and greasy old man. Using Arya's assistance, we unlock Naruko's phone, getting access to the internet, and she shows us a picture of Shizuka, revealing that the bodies in Mobius might not match their real-world counterparts. After exploring this area, we finally reach March Hare and attend Sweet Pea's tea party. We adopt flowery nicknames and proceed to eat. However, Mifue is disgusted by the princess's pig-like eating manners, leading her to reveal our true identity to Sweet Pea, who already knew beforehand. Sweet Pea, angered by this confrontation, denies her real identity as Shizuka and engages in battle with us. Due to our previous overleveling, we finish the battle quickly and Sweet Pea escapes, leaving behind half of a ticket. Afterwards, Mifue, emotionally drained by the whole ordeal, tearfully apologizes to the princesses for her hurtful remarks. With only half a ticket and no plan, we decide to leave and return to the club room. Naruko joins the club, wanting to return to the real world after finding some information. She reveals that everyone in Mobius is suffering from astral syndrome, a condition causing dormancy and decay in their real-world bodies. To avoid perishing in Mobius, one must return to reality. The pairing of this chapter is clearly Mifue and Sweet Pea. While Sweet Pea is an overweighted man, Mifue is underweighted and currently in the hospital for it. Both of them struggle with food in their own way. During our Papiko exploration, we discovered an additional 12 enigmas, opened 17 more soul fragments, and gathered 25 extra stigmas. We also earned the In Search of Your Individuality achievement. After returning to the club, our focus shifts to searching for leads relating to other musicians, Mew, and the half ticket we just obtained. Our investigation leads us to the train station square, where we encounter Thorn, the enigmatic leader of the Ostinato musicians. Intrigued by our potential, Thorn invites us to join their ranks through a mysterious door. Embracing this opportunity, we enter the door and meet Mew, who transforms us into the musician Lucide and grants us our own personal song. Thorn instructs us to continue interacting with the club members as usual and await her summon through a wire. Unlocking the musician's route gives us the Two Different Perspectives achievement. Later on, we meet Eiji and Kotono, with Eiji revealing his urgent desire to return to the real world as the CEO of an IT company. In exchange for his help in obtaining leads on the ticket, we promise to guide him to the club room and he becomes a member of our team. We then embark on character episodes, including 2 for Mifue, showcasing her struggles with food and impulsive dessert cafe visits, 2 for Shogo, that shed light on his decision to pass the leadership to us and his vulnerability to a particular song by Thorn, 2 for Kotono, that revolve around her being stalked. Kotaro's single event highlights his immaturity and confusion regarding his lack of nomination for president. We also find Kensuke struggling with finding a new purpose in life after leaving the musicians. On the musician's side, we get a single Thorn event that provides minimal exposition for the moment. Finally, we get to see AG's first event. In it, we simply exchange cordial pleasantries, as we both are presidents of an organization. Following these events, we returned to Papico for a farming session, and after a total of 22 hours, we located 88 extra students, unlocked an additional 50 traumas, and collected 10 more stigmas. We also got a world surrounded by friends achievement by making friends with over 100 NPCs. Our progression is the following. In the third chapter, our journey takes us to Miyabi Hot Springs, a location associated with the musician Stork. The main hall resembles a festival ground, while the tower houses hotel rooms and spring baths. We observe the devoted female students under Stork's influence, which leads to battles as we question their infatuation. Our focus shifts when we discover that Sweet Pea and the Flower Princesses often visit the baking soda fountain baths on the second floor. We decide to pursue Sweet Pea's capture and explore the rest of the main hall before heading upstairs. On the second floor, we encounter the nameless girl's third enigma, and she reveals the desire to return home but lacks any memory of her identity. At the baking soda fountain, a scene unfolds where the girls in our group enter the baths in search of Sweet Pea. When we play as the female protagonist, we also get to enter the baths. We come across the hypergirl bathing with Sweet Pea. Kotono quickly calls out the location of a male student wearing a plague doctor mask. This student is revealed to be the perverted musician Stork. Sweet Pea escapes, and the girl is revealed to be Ayana Amamoto, someone who despises men. She awakens her catharsis effect and quickly defeats Stork. Ayana joins our group, wielding a stun gun and specializing in stunning enemies. She becomes our sixth party member, and we embark on a mission to find Stork. Moving upwards to the third floor, Stork challenges to locate him as he engages in inappropriate behavior. Disguising himself as objects, we eventually find him, but he continues to evade us. After exploring the rest of the floor, we proceed to the fourth floor. The fourth floor houses the Sunflower Rooms and, let's see if I can say this, the Bougainvillea Rooms. Stork continues to taunt us, claiming he is peeping at a specific girl and that we will never catch him. However, we manage to find and battle him, defeating him in the process, despite his ability to launch aerial combos. Stork manages to escape once again, and we encounter him near the co-ed baths. Ayana's disgust for him reaches its peak, and she reveals her intention to turn him into the police once they return to reality. This panics Stork, and he battles us one last time. We emerge victorious, and Stork, now remorseful, suggests seeking out another musician, Shonen-Doll, at the city library. As we depart from Miyabi Hot Springs, Eiji proposes a new strategy. Instead of searching for Mew directly, we should focus on defeating Digiheads and causing an imbalance in Mobius to weaken her. However, our group disagrees with his methods. Shogo then suggests an alternative plan to protect the current laggards and wait for the musicians to approach us, hoping to draw out Mew. This becomes the basis for the Ostinato musician route missions. We set a trap on Gossiper for the musicians to target laggards at the high school. The third chapter concludes as we form pairs to defend the laggards at the school, and Thorn summons us to the musician room. This chapter highlights the dynamic between Ayana and Stork, with Ayana's fear of men and Stork's voyeuristic tendencies causing intense conflict. During our hot springs exploration, we discovered one extra enigma, opened 26 additional soul fragments, gathered 20 new stigmas, and earned the Desire and Discipline achievement. After gaining control of our character, we engage in 3 episodes involving Ayana, delving deeper into her deep-rooted aversion towards men. In an effort to address and alleviate her fear, we facilitate interactions between Ayana and the male members of the club, aiming to improve collaboration within the group. The first test involves Kensuke, whose gaze initially infuriates Ayana. However, after he apologizes, she begins to realize that perhaps not all men are as terrible as she initially had believed. Following these events, we returned to the hot springs for a farming session, and after a total of 32 hours, we located 40 extra students, unlocked an additional 22 traumas, and collected 1 extra stigma. Our progression is the following. When we enter the musician's room, Sweet Pea and Stork are surprised by our invisible appearance. We are introduced as Lucide, the newest musician, and as punishment for their failure against Go Home Club, Sweet Pea and Stork are ordered with hunting down and brainwashing the increasing number of Lagardes in Mobius. Thorn appoints us as the leader of the operation, and we head out to the high school to track down the Lagardes. Before leaving, however, we have some episodes to deal with. The next episode with Thorn explains that everyone in Mobius carries a trauma from the real world, and we promise to deepen our relationship with her. In Sweet Pea's event, we see her enjoying her life in Mobius as an icon for dreamy, cute fashion. On the other hand, Stork admires our invisibility and explains its significance to him. We then proceed to the high school. As we arrive, Mew plays our song, which enthralls several students. However, the Go Home Club becomes aware of our presence and prepares to ambush us. We fight our way through the first floor, aiming to raise Sweet Pea and Stork's affinity to level 9 to unlock future events and test the Lagarde's drops. Similar to Kotono, Sweet Pea wields a bow and fights from a distance. However, she lacks the support skills of Kotono in exchange for a higher endurance and damage output. Stork is a mid-range character that uses a whip as his weapon. With the right stigmas, he can act as an evasion tank by diverting the enemy's attention while avoiding their attacks. On the second floor, Sweet Pea attempts to re-brainwash some laggards who were once her fans. However, they insult her, revealing the truth bombs spread by Naruko on Gossiper. Enraged, Sweet Pea battles and defeats them, forcefully brainwashing them with the use of the mind phones. On another floor, Mifue and Ayana strike a conversation with some male students trying to locate us. Arya arrives and informs the girls of our presence, while keeping the boys occupied. Ayana, sensing Stork's presence, rushes out in anger, anticipating his likely location. When we reach the third floor, we are ambushed by the male students and Arya, who fights us. Despite their efforts, we emerge victorious, but Arya manages to escape and Stork disappears. We search for Stork and find him mimicking a locker and peeping on some female students while changing. Ayana then arrives, ready to confront him. We intervene and save Stork from Ayana's final blow. Before battling us, Arya uses her catharsis effect Overdose to enhance Ayana and Mifue's abilities. We fight the powered-up versions of the girls and eventually defeat them, earning the achievement First Job. After our victory, we retreat to the musician's room, where Thorn congratulates us and dismisses our services for now. We engage in more of the musician's episodes. In Sweet Pea's second event, she struggles with her true body in the real world and her inability to be a man while enjoying cute things. Stork, on the other hand, offers to train us in the art of peeping after recognizing the practicability of invisibility. After the event, we talked to some previously locked students and unlocked 27 new traumas. We also unlocked 4 world reward doors, and our progression is the following. After wrapping up the musicians' affairs, we regroup at the club room. Kotaro expresses frustration about our absence during the ambush, but we provide a quick excuse. Despite the failed ambush, we decide to confront Shonen-Doll at the library. The library's maze-like layout confuses us, and Shonen-Doll surprises us by manipulating the bookshelves and walls to isolate us. We end up separated and must rescue our friends as Shonen-Doll aims to exploit our loneliness and turn us to dolls. We hear Suzuna scream, and with Arya we search the lower archives of Solitude to find her. Along the way we encounter Mew's third remnant, reflecting her emotions after recruiting the Ostinato musicians. Navigating the library proves challenging, but we eventually find Suzuna. To rescue each party member, we must solve a riddle related to their trauma, except for Eiji. In Suzuna's room, we find her in tears after discovering her middle school friend turned into a doll. Suzuna's catharsis effect awakens, granting her spear-wielding abilities. Suzuna is a melee-type character. In order to maximize her DPS, she needs to come close to the enemy, a great risk due to her low defenses. She is better used as a support character as she can revive party members and has a very quick barrier break skill. We proceed to the upper archives of Solitude, where Kotaro is transformed into a doll. Arya manages to reverse the transformation, and we battle the Guardian of Solitude to obtain a key. Unlocking the door to the lower archives of Fiction, we explore and rescue Shogo. Moving up to the upper archives, we receive anxious messages from Naruko, fearing Digihead encounters. Before she fully transforms into a Digihead, we manage to save her, and we trigger her catharsis effect. Naruko uses Astral Cluster drones for long-range attacks and the powerful poison skill. We then defeat the Guardian of Fiction and acquire their key. Next, we enter the lower archives of Regret, rescuing Ayana, Eiji, and finally Kotono. In the upper archives, we save Kensuke and Mifue, reuniting the whole party. Afterwards, we engage in battle with the Guardian of Regret and pursue Shonen-Doll deeper into the library. In the archives of Helplessness, we find Shonen-Doll hiding in the recreation of his real-world room. Suzuna relates to him and offers hope, but he becomes angry, leading to a battle. Shonen-Doll summons dolls and attacks with spinning mannequins. We emerge victorious, however. He apologizes and fears retribution, but Suzuna soothes him and promises to befriend him in the real world. He tearfully reveals that Mew is performing at Sea Paraíso, a theme park. This time around, the pairing can be seen between Shonen-Doll and Suzuna, as both are very shy individuals. However, while Suzuna craves friendship and companions, Shonen-Doll shies away from it. As we leave the library, we encounter Izuru, who joins the club as he cannot return to reality alone. Afterwards, Kotono suggests an ambush at the hot springs instead of going to the Sea Paraíso, clearly wanting to avoid it. We prepare a trap on Gossiper, pair up, and respond to Thorn's summons. During our library exploration, we discover 10 additional enigmas, opened 35 fragments, gathered 27 stigmas, and earned the A Fleeting Chance achievement. We delve into a series of character episodes. Shogo's depict his struggles at a new job, where he reluctantly acts as a girl's pretend boyfriend after accidentally breaking her phone. Kotono receives a letter from her prince inviting her to a ball, and we agree to accompany her. Kotaro sets up a profile on Gossiper in order to help those in need and receives a hit. Kensuke battles former fans turned into Digiheads as a way to atone for his past actions. Mifue visits dessert cafes to window shop but ends up sharing her true story with us. She was bullied for being the child of an overweight mother, which led her to develop eating disorders and becoming underweight. She now seeks to apologize to her Mobius mother, who wanders aimlessly in it before doing the same in the real world to the real one. We agree to assist her. Suzuna's first event reveals her embarrassment at eating lunch alone, prompting us to help her break out of her shell by inviting club members to join us for lunch. Lastly, Naruko demonstrates her attachment to social media by publishing hasty and thoughtless reviews in a quest for fame and influence. Following these events, we returned to the library for a farming session, and after a total of 42 hours, we located 65 extra students, unlocked an additional 59 traumas, and collected 42 extra stigmas. Our progression is the following. Upon returning to the musician's room in the persona of Lucide, we are introduced to Shonen-Doll as a new member of our party. Thorn instructs us to embark on a mission to hunt down laggards once again, but now at the hot springs. Before setting out, we participate in an episode involving Thorn, where she recreates a high school scenario involving herself and Mew. Sweet Pea, frustrated after the hot spring events, complains about her popularity dropping after her identity as an old man got revealed through Gossiper. Stork showcases his mimicry skills during his training session and shares his upbringing, revealing how he was raised in a strict and conservative manner by his mother. The exposure to lewd content by his high school peers led him to develop a peeping behavior. In Shonen-Doll's first event, we witness his reclusive nature, but with persistence, he agrees to accept our assistance to have lunch with Suzuna. Shonen-Doll is a mid-range character that uses his claws as a weapon. While he can't deal much damage to a single enemy, he excels in area of effect damage and stunning and poisoning several enemies at the same time. He also has a very useful debuff that cuts the enemy's max HP, and it works against bosses. As we arrive at the hot springs, Mew plays our song, signaling our presence to the Go Home Club. Ayana, Kotono, Kensuke, and Shogo await us at the entrance of the baking soda fountain bath, while Naruko and Suzuna enter through the back alley. Stork anticipates an ambush and suggests we meet the others directly at the bath, much to Shonen-Doll's dismay. We make our way to the back alley. This particular area is only accessible at this time, and it contains missable soul fragments. We collect 5 locations around the map, engaging in battles to raise Shonen-Doll's affinity level to 9. We then proceed to the baths via an elevator. Inside, a misunderstanding occurs between Shonen-Doll, Suzuna, and Naruko, resulting in a confrontation. Arya triggers Suzuna and Naruko's catharsis effect Overdose, leading us into a challenging battle. Despite being overleveled, we face difficulties, but ultimately emerge victorious. The club members escape and we return to the musician's room, earning the Pervert Trio achievement. Before rejoining our club members, we participate in a few more episodes. Thorn reenacts another episode of her past, this time in a cafe, where she purposefully poisons her drink. Stork continues to train us at the high school, relishing his role as our teacher and sharing how he encountered a master while peeping who taught him everything he knows. Shonen-Doll is still upset about the incident at the hot springs with Suzuna, fearing that she may no longer want to have bento lunches with him. We reassure, agreeing to train him in, quote, normie ways to help him loosen up. As we approach the next chapter, I decided it would be beneficial to address some traumas and assist several students. Little did I know, the task would be more quick if it was done in bulk once every area and student got unlocked. Nonetheless, we resolved the traumas of 31 students and gained 14 passives in the process. There will be a later chapter where I will delve deeper into this system, the different traumas and their solution. Our progression is the following. Without any leads at the moment, we finally decide to visit Paraíso, the theme park. However, before heading there, we take a detour to participate in Thorn's 5th event. In this one, we accompany her to the co-ed baths, where she expresses her gratitude towards Mew for helping preserve Mobius. We also learn more about Stork's life as a police officer in the real world, driven by the thrill of being a polarizing figure as both police and Pipman. However, upon hearing a comment from Mew, he becomes extremely nervous and abruptly leaves. Upon reaching the Temple Park Plaza, we discover that Mew's event is taking place at the top of a pyramid-shaped sun temple. To reach her, we must navigate through traps and answer questions correctly while climbing to the summit. The reward for reaching Mew is the opportunity to attend her event produced by the musician Kuchinashi. As we enter the temple, we are identified as children of Mu and participants in the event. We begin exploring the first floor, engaging in battles along the way until we reach a puzzle on the second floor. The puzzle presents itself as a simple riddle, but given the surroundings, answering incorrectly could trigger a trap. Despite discussing possible solutions, the group overlooks the potential danger, and an impulsive Kotaro chooses the wrong answer. This activates a trapdoor, causing us to fall back to the first floor. As a consequence, we must climb back up to that point. This time, the protagonist takes charge of providing the answers, and we select the correct one, allowing us to proceed. Just as we are about to exit the floor, we are ambushed by Digiheads. Izuru and Eiji stay behind while we find ourselves caught in a pincer attack. Eiji becomes trapped and begins to exhibit violent behavior, hinting at his true nature. However, this experience leads him to realize what the Catharsis effect is all about, and he awakens his own power by itself, commanding fire and a whip as his weapon. Eiji specializes in launching enemies into combos and dealing area of effect damage. We continue exploring the second floor, solve another riddle, and progress to the third floor. On the third floor, we encounter the next enigma presented by the nameless girl. She shows us a pair of tiny socks and shares that her earliest memory is of being in a dark yet warm place, where she heard Mew's song and was drawn into Mobius. By the end of this floor, we encounter yet another riddle, but this time around the question is a peculiar one and a dark one. These questions are actually part of a real-life quiz designed to assess a person's level of psychopathy. We must answer them as a psychopath would. Interestingly, Eiji agrees with our choices, further hinting at his true self. As we answer the final riddle at the top of the pyramid, we find ourselves trapped in a jail, forced to listen to Mew's performance from afar. Feeling trapped once again, Eiji erupts in anger but quickly apologizes, mentioning a childhood trauma where he was kidnapped by a man named Tadokoro. The group comforts him, though Ayana and Naruko become suspicious, unaware that this incident is not the true reason for his frustration in such a situation. Shortly thereafter, Kuchinashi and Mew appear before us. Kuchinashi holds a grudge against Eiji and reveals that she had Mew examine his soul, exposing the facade he has been putting up. This triggers Eiji's anger, causing him to set the ground on fire. Witnessing the flames, Kuchinashi panics and struggles to breathe. Eiji agrees to cease his behavior if Mew brings down the cage. But he quickly reveals his true intentions, attempting to attack Mew. Kotaro steps in and protects her, allowing her to escape. Kuchinashi then prepares to battle us. Similar to Ayana, Kuchinashi wields a stun gun and can interrupt our moves while dealing significant damage. After the battle, Eiji continues to attack Kuchinashi, desiring to kill her. Ayana then intervenes and shields Kuchinashi, enabling her escape. Eiji directs his anger towards Ayana, but before another battle can ensue, we fire a bullet into the air demanding respect from Eiji. He apologizes, and with tensions high, we leave the Sun Temple without a clear course of action.
This chapter delved deeper into the relationship between Kuchinashi and Eiji, revealing their intertwined story. To uncover their full story, it is necessary to play through both the musician route and Go Home Club route and see their characters' episodes.
During our exploration of the temple, we discovered an additional enigma opened 39 fragments, gathered 28 stigmas, and earned the Truth Unseen achievement. After leaving the tense atmosphere of the temple, we hear rumors that Mew has moved to the Aquarian section of the Sea Paraíso for another event. Kotaro breaks the tension up with a scream, and we decide to head to the aquarium. In a cutscene, Mew questions if blocking the exit is truly what brings happiness to everyone, while Thorn reassures her. Mirei, a narcissistic musician, then appears with her chaperone Toshizo and asks Mew about a male student that she saw in Kotono's heart. We regroup at the club room before proceeding and witness some of Eiji's events. Eiji's next event involves him apologizing for his behavior at the Sun Temple and denying any possible connection to Kuchinashi, mentioning her affiliation with a rival company as a possibility. He then tests our determination to fight Mew if necessary, and we agree in order to appease him. Since the Sun Temple is an Overdose only location, like the hot springs, there aren't many new students to unlock their traumas. As such, I skipped on farming them. However, the Stigma farm was completed as usual. After about 54 hours, we snagged 13 extra stigmas and unlocked 3 extra world rewards. Our progression is the following. The next chapter begins with us arriving at the aquarium. Upon arriving at it, we are captivated by its beautiful blue walls, and the tension gained at the Sun Temple starts to fade away. Izuru questions Arya about experiencing the catharsis effect, and she explains the whole process. He believes that he is incapable of gaining it. Despite his skepticism, as we are ambushed by Digiheads, he, unable to fight, is struck from behind, but to our surprise he remains unharmed, which pushes him to the brink and he awakens to his power. Later on, we get an explanation as to why he awakened. Izuru is a melee character wielding a sword and specializes in dealing combos that combo into other actions when certain requirements are fulfilled. With Izuru joining the awakened members, everyone at the Go Home Club has now experienced the catharsis effect. The full party has now awakened. Moving forward, we come across a large aquarium tank where a male student named Ryosuke is tied to a chair. Mirei appears and demands Kotono's submission and that she begs for his salvation. Much to her dismay, Kotono shows no concern, leading to a battle of insults between the two girls. To save Ryosuke, Kotono reluctantly agrees to a beauty contest, and we must gather votes by giving out tickets and interacting with 3 curators who have a strong sense of aesthetic beauty. While exploring the aquarium and battling Digiheads, we collect some enigmas, open soul fragments, and earn votes from students in the lobby and Sea of Life areas. We then encounter our first curator, who tests Kotono by asking her to berate him. We suggest asking politely, but it backfires. Koto then reveals a dark side that impresses the curator, earning his vote. The second curator asks Kotono to, quote, step on him, revealing the sadistic nature that Mirei has towards the male students. We suggest a simple massage, which the curator enjoys a bit too much, prompting Kotono to kick him in the face, earning his vote. In the same room, we find the final enigma from the nameless girl. It is revealed that she is an unborn baby, currently in her mother's womb, brought to Mobius due to her mother's hospitalization with the Astral Syndrome. She asks us to destroy Mobius so that she can return to reality and gives us a special stigma. Her true wish is to be born. We then learn from Naruko's phone that Sea Paraíso was previously owned by Mirei's father, and that she lost her luxurious lifestyle due to his bankruptcy. In Mobius, she strives to maintain her former wealth, not wanting to go back to reality to live in poverty. Before meeting the final curator, we witness a cutscene between Mew and Arya, yet another of Mew's remnants. In it, they struggle to understand each other's intentions regarding closing the doors of Mobius. Despite their apologies, they remain at odds, leaving Mew saddened. Continuing our exploration, we achieved level 50, earning us yet another achievement. And finally, reach the final curator. He requests Kotono to look at him with disgust, but she refuses, and chooses to show kindness instead. This infuriates him, but Kotono stands her ground and demands his vote. This dominating attitude pleases him, and we earn his vote. With all 3 votes collected, we return to the lobby for the final results. As expected, Kotono emerges as the winner, devastating Mirei. In her acceptance speech, Kotono mentions Takun, causing confusion to everyone. Unable to accept her defeat, Mirei orders Soshizo to brainwash us and breaks her agreement. Kotono confronts Mirei, revealing the true nature of their situation and her loss of freedom. This prompts a battle with Mirei, who is fed up with Kotono. She wields a hammer and is accompanied by 4 half-heart pieces. After the battle, Mirei escapes and Ryosuke is freed. However, Kotono surprises everyone by swiftly knocking him down with a punch. With no leads, we are yet again forced to devise a plan for another ambush, this time at the library, which sets up the mission involving the next Ostinato musician mission. This time around, the pair focused was obviously Kotono and Mirei. In the real world, both are beautiful adult women, and while Mirei associates her beauty with her freedom to live a luxurious life, Kotono curses hers after robbing her freedom after becoming a single mother. During our aquarium exploration, we discovered 8 additional enigmas, opened 24 fragments, gathered 15 stigmas, and earned the achievement Glory Days Bygone. When we gain back the control of the protagonist, we have the opportunity to continue some character episodes for various club members: Shogo, Kotaro, Mifue, Suzuna, Kotono, Kensuke, Naruko, Izura, Ayana, and Eiji. Here's a summary of the key events. Shogo agrees to have another date with Chika and collapses after hearing Thorn's song, leaving Chika worried and confused about her feelings for him. We attend a ball with Kotono, hoping to encounter her stalker, but find nothing. She then reveals to be the daughter of a barmaid and shares her dislike for her mother's dependence on intoxicated patrons. She receives a deceptive invitation from the stalker, leading to an ambush by 2 digiheads. Her stalker is then revealed to be the same friend of Kotono, and she reveals her resentments towards her as she lives a peaceful life while her mother struggles to support her and Takun. Kotaro invites us to meet the requester, and we discover that the person he asks you to look after is an acquaintance of his. The revelation shocks the student, leading to an outburst directed at Kotaro. We accompany Kensuke as he deals with his former fans and grapples with conflicting emotions. A special digihead called Blue Moon desires to remain in Mobius due to the dissatisfaction of his mundane adult life. Kensuke's convictions are shaken when he is faced with a harsh truth. As for Mifue, we search for her mother at the train station, but come unsuccessful. Arya then suggests that Mifue's former NPC mother may be on the verge of being formatted into another type of NPC, as Mobius resources are finite. Suzuna invites Mifue to have lunch, impressing her with her cooking skills. Suzuna's background includes her past involvement in a glee club, where she faced difficulties when her friends from the club went to different schools and her new peers didn't appreciate her hobby. Naruko's attempts to gain fame through writing online stories are met with negative reviews due to her lack of originality. We suggest that she writes about a real story, and with Suzuna's help she starts gaining a small following. Despite being popular with female students, Izuru disregards their infatuation in exchange for solitude and independence. To test his convictions, you assign him day-to-day tasks, which he struggles to complete due to his sheltered upbringing. Recognizing his disconnection from the real world, Izuru agrees to accept our assistance. With Ayana, we continue to assist her with her fear of men and encourage an interaction between her and Izuru, where they bond over their shared passion for music. Ayana reveals the tragic story of her former friend Himari, an idol who was attacked by a male-obsessed fan. Ayana writes a letter to her father aiming to apologize for the consequences her androphobia had on her family. She desires to return to the real world, reconcile with her father, and respond to his daily letters. Ayana then writes and sends letters to all the male members and invites us to the roof. When playing as the female protagonist, the male club members' reactions to our invitation are quite funny. Specifically Kensuke. He is quite exciting for us to meet Ayana. Eiji borrows Naruko's phone to check real-world events, arousing Naruko's curiosity. She discovers that Eiji's search history leads to Koki Tadokoro, who is an inmate. Eiji then seeks our help in locating Tadokoro in Mobius. Eiji manages to locate Tadokoro with Kensuke's assistance. We then spy on their confrontation, and we see that Eiji attempted to kill him. We intervene, and this destabilizes Eiji, leading us to delve deeper into his heart. Eiji reveals that he is not truly an IT CEO, but a lawyer. Tadokoro was his client, responsible for the arson that killed Kuchinashi's family. This reveals that Eiji's story about him being kidnapped was a total lie. Despite this revelation, Eiji's trauma remains locked, suggesting that it may not be the complete truth, as when delving deeper into a main character's heart, it unlocks their trauma. Following the character episodes, we engage in yet another farming session, this time at the aquarium. We collect 17 new stigmas and unlock 3 new world rewards. We also talk to the aquarium students and check previously locked ones. After a total of 66 hours, we located a total of 106 students and unlocked 43 new traumas. Additionally, I decided to do another round of solving traumas before the end. We alleviated 42 traumas and snagged 19 passive stigmas. This is our overall progression. Upon entering the musician's room, we meet Kuchinashi and Mirei as Lucid, who join our party for laggard hunting at the city library, along with Shonen-Doll. Additionally, we encounter Shadow Knife, Mew's personal guard. Before continuing, we do some characters' events. We participate in 3 events with Kuchinashi, we witness her affection for her Mobius family, and are invited to her birthday party. During the celebration, we discover that her family members are full NPCs. Unfortunately, Kuchinashi collapses when the candles are lit and we rush her to the hospital. After recovering, she expresses her gratitude for our presence at her party. As a party member, Kuchinashi fights similarly to Ayana, being able to stun enemies with her stun gun. Like her, she is capable of taunting enemies, however she isn't bulky as Ayana. So, in my opinion, she is better used as a non-revive healer and supporter due to her vast array of party buffs and a strong AoE heal. Mirei, on the other hand, is a powerhouse with a high attack stat. Like Mifue, she battles with a hammer and can dish out damage with risk follow-up attacks. However, unlike her, she cannot raise risk levels efficiently, but can taunt enemies. When we arrive at the library, Mew plays our song, signaling our arrival. We begin exploring and hunting lagards, but Shonen-Doll is missing. He has effectively retreated to his fake room deep within the library, feeling ashamed about the previous hot spring event involving Suzuna and Naruko. As we explore deeper into the library, we increase affinity with Kuchinashi and Mirei in order to unlock their future events and reach Shonen-Doll's room. We encourage him to come out of his seclusion and succeed. Eventually, we reach the computer room. It is there that we encounter Kotono and Eiji. A confrontation ensues as Kuchinashi expresses her hatred once again for Eiji, and Kotono's rivalry with Mirei intensifies. Arya triggers the catharsis effect overload, leading us to battle the Go Home Club members. Defeating them grants us the Reason for Hate achievement and brings joy to Mirei. However, Kuchinashi curses Eiji for escaping. The subsequent events shed light on Kuchinashi's fear of fire, stemming from the tragic arson incident that claimed her entire family's lives. The culprit, Tadokoro, was set free after Eiji successfully defended him in the case involving the assault on Himari, Ayana's friend. Eiji's true nature is shown to be far from perfect. After our victory, we return to the musician's room where Thorn dismisses us after we complete her 6th event, which involves her reenacting her past once again. Finally, we inquire about the person she is making us imitate, to which she responds, "My mortal enemy." When we return to the club room, we yet again face the anger of the other club members. We make an effort to explain our absence, and Naruko announces Miu's upcoming concert at the train station featuring the musician Ike-P. We head out there and watch from the back. Suddenly, Miu starts forcefully absorbing the energy from the students, which Arya clarifies as negative emotions that can be dangerous for Miu. Concerned for her well-being, Arya asks us to follow them and talk to Miu. Naruko discovers that Ike-P will be heading to Papiko after the concert. As such, we follow them there. Upon arrival, we find Ike-P waiting for us, showing obvious disdain towards Izuru. There is a one-sided popularity contest between them, with Ike-P wanting to surpass Izuru. Ike-P summons Digi-Heads to attack us as he retreats further into Papiko. We quickly defeat them and reach the previously inaccessible boys area. At the stairs leading to the next area, we encounter Sweet Pea's flower princesses, who are infatuated with Izuru. We engage in battle, and although we defeat them to break their brainwashed state, they remain infatuated by him and pursue us. Next, we explore the dinner area before hiding in a clothing shop to evade their pursuit. After losing their trail, we proceed to the stairs for the next area and find another of Miu's remnant. In it, she contemplates a request to return to reality after blocking the exit. She is clearly conflicted about the situation, questioning why so many people came to Mobius if the real world could be a good place. As we ascend to the casual area, we are once again forced to hide from the flower princesses behind clothing racks and plants. Kensuke informs us that both Ike-P and Izuru have fan clubs in Mobius. This explains why Ike-P is out to compete with Izuru. A female student then approaches us and we ask her about Ike-P's whereabouts, and she mentions a clothing store called Men's Fist as his frequent hangout spot. We try to locate the shop in the next area. Despite our efforts to avoid them, the flower princesses continue to pursue us further into the fashion area. Kotaro then comes up with a plan to lose them by having Suzuna announce a sale and dessert offer, diverting their attention. With less urgency, we make our way towards Men's Fist, and Izuru starts to warm up to the club members and enjoy the experience. Upon reaching the store, we don't find Ike-P, but we search for information about him. Eventually, Naruko finds his resume, revealing his ordinary looks and mediocre profession in the real world. His wish from Yu was to become attractive and popular, and his competitiveness with Izuru stems from deep insecurities. We discover Ike-P on the rooftop with Miu and some female students, seemingly enjoying himself while ignoring us. Unable to gain his attentions, we resort to a trick where Naruko, Kotaro, and Kensuke approach the female students and expose Ike-P's true self, showing a real-life picture of him. Surely upset, Ike-P misdirects his anger towards Izuru, accusing him of plotting against him. Ike-P then tells Miu to run and protect herself. He confronts Izuru and challenges us to battle. Like the previous bosses, we make quick work of him and defeat him. After the victory, Ike-P's ego shatters, but Izuru praises him for his accomplishments and admits to envying his independence. Izuru then asks Arya to reveal his true face to Ike-P, who is surprised by the request. Moved by Izuru's words and intentions, Ike-P reveals that Miu might be with her personal bodyguard now, Shadow Knife, back at the Landmark Tower. As we leave Papiko, Shogo, concerned about going to the Landmark Tower, suggests another ambush. Despite his desperation, we agree to it and regroup at the club room to plan a trap at the Sun Temple. The chapter then concludes with Thorn summoning us once again. This chapter establishes Izuru and Ike-P as a pairing. Both are attractive in Mobius but envious of each other. Ike-P, a hard-working, independent man, desires Izuru's looks, while Izuru, who is handsome, longs for Ike-P's independence due to his family constraints. During our second exploration of Papiko, we opened 21 fragments, gathered 13 stigmas, and earned the archetypal self achievement. Clearing Ike-P's chapter and progressing to the next Ostinato chapter is a crucial point in the game. Many characters' episodes become available while the old ones become locked. Falling behind on these episodes can prevent us from completing some character storylines, as well as the third and final ending, and thus the 100% completion challenge. In the upcoming character episodes, we watch one episode each from Kotono and Mifue, 2 episodes each from Kotaro, Naruko, Suzuna, Izuru, and Ayana. In Kotono's events, we learn more about her personal struggles and her identity as Takun's mother. She realizes her mistakes and resolves to return to her mother and son. Kotaro reveals that the male student who lashed out at him is his cousin. We discover that Kotaro lives with his uncle and cousin after losing his parents in a car accident. Yuto, his cousin, holds resentment towards Kotaro for causing their parents worry. Yuto then turns into a digihead and we use the catharsis effect to restore him to sanity, but Yuto responds with ingratitude and insults Kotaro even further. Naruko is upset despite gaining more views and rankings for her story. We discover that she suffers from internet addiction disorder and has been an online troll due to her being bullied at school. She feels empty and a phony, but we reassure her that we appreciate her story and want to see it through completion. Kensuke, after quitting his previous endeavor, reveals his fear of adult life and responsibility due to lacking talent. We provide him with words of encouragement, lifting his spirit as he decides to confront Blue Moon once again. His trauma is the Peter Pan syndrome. Mifue, having struggled to find her mother, nearly faints. We suggest that she eats something and go to the hospital, but the idea triggers a panic in her. Delving into her heart, we learn that she was hospitalized in the real world for not eating due to fear of becoming like her mother. She suffers from body dysmorphia, but we reassure her that looks aren't everything and that she is mentally strong. During Suzuna's events, we lunch with Naruko, but Suzuna trauma resurfaces when Kotaro rejects her offer. She suffers from lunchmate syndrome, resulting from rejection and being labeled as a nerd in high school. We comfort her, assuring her that we genuinely enjoy her company. In Izuru's test, he struggles to buy clothes and expresses a desire to be alone due to lacking social skills. He attempts solo karaoke, but he is ambushed by female students who are attracted to his looks. Frustrated, he cuts his own face to scare them off. We have a conversation with him where he explains that his wounds heal instantly in Mobius and he feels the need for them to be himself. For now, we let them be. Ayana's event concludes with her thanking us for our help and giving us a handkerchief. She becomes more comfortable around men and feels ready to face her father, apologize and be present as a daughter should be. Additionally, if playing as a female protagonist, Ayana gives us a tool for self-protection and confesses her love for us. Completing Ayana's final event unlocks her ultimate skill, and we achieve the milestone in the depths of your heart. It's time for another farming session. We return to Papico and interact with some new students. We end up locating 60 extra students, unlocked 86 traumas, and collect more than 18 new stigmas. We also added the passwords for one more world reward. Our progression is the following. Under Thorn's orders, we enter the musician's room and meet with other musicians, including Ike-P. Thorn assigns us the task of hunting down lagards in the Go Home Club's location. Mirei, Kuchinashi, and Ike-P will form the party with us. Despite Ike-P's initial protest, Naruko exposes his true face on Gossiper, leading him to seek revenge on Izuru. Ike-P fights with dual pistols, similar to the protagonist, able to counter melee and range skills, as well as breaking barriers. Unfortunately, even with some changes in his kit, he is outperformed by them in almost every aspect. As such, I think he is more suited as a support character due to his healing and stress-generating skills. Upon arriving at the Sun Temple, Mew plays our song to announce our presence to the club. Despite being musicians and having Kuchinashi in our party, we must still face the attraction tests and solve riddles as before. Tadokoro, a fanatic searching for Mew, is also seen at the temple, the same one in Eiji and Kuchinashi's story. We progress through the first floor but fall into a trap when Mirei impulsively chooses the wrong answer to a riddle. The laggard hunting continues smoothly as we improve Ike-P's affinity and solve the riddles, which turns out to be the same ones that Kuchinashi's mother used to give her as a child before bed. Reaching the 4th and 5th floor, we encounter the psychopath query, but Kuchinashi answers on her behalf. Finally, we reach the top. However, before facing the Go Home Club, we must confront Tadokoro, who forcefully demands to speak with Mew. He attacks Kuchinashi, but we intervene and engage in battle, emerging victorious. At this point, Kuchinashi still doesn't know his true identity. Moving forward, we encounter Shogo and Izuru at the temple's peak, with Ike-P still suspicious of Izuru despite his denial and apology. Arya activates the Catharsis effect Overdose, and we once again must battle the club members. Izuru proves challenging as he can one-shot one of the musicians with a single combo. However, while focusing our efforts, we emerge as the winners. Shogo, Izuru, and Arya escape and Ike-P celebrates our victory. We return to the musician's room, achieving the unfortunate charisma milestone. Despite our triumph, it becomes clear that we misunderstood Thorn's objective. She wanted us to capture the club members, not defeat them. A frustrated Shadow Knife declares his intention to handle them, and Ike-P relays what he previously told the Go Home Club at Papico. Several character episodes are now available, and it is crucial to complete them before advancing to the Shadow Knife chapter, as they will impact the outcome of it. Here is a summary of the events. In Sweet Pea, we assist her in her struggle with dieting and exercise. We coach her to work out moderately while still enjoying the food she likes. During a measurement check, we discover that she cheated on her diet, leading to an emotional outburst. We delve into her heart and discover her trauma related to travestism. She feels conflicted about liking cute things while being an older man in real life. We accept her and encounter the Flower Princesses, who teach Sweet Pea to embrace her true self. Through Stork's episodes, we explore the source of his trauma, scopophilia. During one of his peeping sessions, he witnessed a man starting a fire that resulted in the death of the people inside. This man was Tadokuro, and the victims were Kuchinashi's family. Stork feels guilty for not reporting the incident due to fear of being implicated. In another event, he saves a female student from harassment and contemplates his identity as both Peepman and a policeman. In Shonen-Dolls, we seek Ike-P's help in finding a new outfit for Shonen-Doll, who wants to impress Suzuna. Initially uncomfortable, Ike-P agrees to assist. The final training session involves Shonen-Doll hosting a party, but he becomes overwhelmed and isolates himself in his room. We delve into his heart and discover his reclusive nature and the trauma he experienced from being constantly mocked. We encourage him to consider Suzuna's kindness, and he decides to seek help. With our assistance, he meets Suzuna at the library and obtains her wire ID. In Kuchinashi's, after encountering Tadokuro at the Sun Temple, Kuchinashi recognizes his true identity and becomes furious, scaring Mew. We delve deeper into her heart and uncover her trauma related to the arson that destroyed her house and her family's murder. She suffers from aphonia. Eiji, a lawyer hired by her father, embezzled their finances and orchestrated the events. We locate Tadokuro with Mew's help, and Kuchinashi confronts him. Tadokuro admits to his crime, but we prevent Kuchinashi from killing him, as his testimony is necessary to convict Eiji. Tadokuro then is left trapped at the Sun Temple, and Kuchinashi vows to protect Mobius to ensure that both of them remain trapped here forever. We begin Mirei's episodes as we attempt to get to know her better, but instead we establish a relationship based on rivalry. We engage in 3 tests: intelligence, strength by going laggard hunting, and luck by using lottery tickets. We win the first 2, but Mirei wins the luck-based test, suggesting follow-up play by Mew, who admits to rigging the results. In Ike-P's events, he relates to us due to his invisibility complex. He becomes our partner and shares his struggles to improve his physical appearance. We decide on improving his personality instead. We focus on improving his communication skills, consideration towards others, and workability. Along the way, Ike-P, in order to improve his workability, starts to work at Memphis, where Izuru enters and asks for help in choosing clothing. Ike-P refuses to help him, even after Izuru reveals his sheltered life. After his lack of action at the shop, Ike-P is extremely disappointed in himself back at the musician's room. With Kuchinashi's events done, we can continue Eiji's true story. We confront Tadokuro again as the protagonist, and he reveals that Eiji was his lawyer and forced him to commit the arson. Eiji's true nature as a psychopath is then unveiled, and he attempts to kill us. However, we defeat him, and when doing so, we banish him from the Go Home Club. Kuchinashi then expresses her gratitude and reveals her true voice in the final event. If we choose to do the Go Home route exclusively, we don't get access to Kuchinashi's character episodes, and as such, we don't get her side of the story. Eiji's story is not halted, however, but we cannot reveal his true identity. As such, we get some generic and short episodes that continue his facade. His final event sees us agreeing to meet him back in the real world. After returning to the club room, Izuru scolds Naruko for posting Ike-P's picture on Gossiper. The group decides to move to the landmark tower despite Shogo's reluctance. Before starting, however, the chapter, it is important to note that the outcome can vary based on previous choices, and they vary quite significantly. In the Go Home Club and Musician route, we can get 2 outcomes based on whether we banished Eiji or not. If Eiji was banished, then he will die by the end of this chapter. If we don't banish him, then Kotaro will die and his events and Shadow Knife's future events will become locked. On the other hand, if we only opt for the Go Home Club, Shadow Knife will be the one to die. With that said, let us begin the chapter. Upon entering the tower, the party notices that it still remains unfinished, while the real-world counterpart is already finished. Arya suggests that it remains unfinished due to a strong wish by someone. Shadow Knife appears and ambushes us. He paralyzes everyone except the protagonist and Kotaro. We battle Shadow Knife, but it reveals to be a clone of his, and then we proceed to the rooftop where the real Shadow Knife awaits us. We explore the tower, collecting items, battling digiheads, and unlocking some doors. We encounter some students that are forcefully being submitted to situations against their will. The first person we rescue is a male student tied to a pillar with rope. In the middle of rescuing bullied students, we find Mu's sixth remnant. In it, we see her worrying about doing her best in the new set of concerts staged by the musicians to collect negative energy, and the first signs of its toll on her. We reach the 66th floor and encounter a female student being forced to eat rotten food. After defeating a copy of Shadow Knife, we rescue her and learn more about Shadow Knife motives. On the 67th floor, we save a final student from bullies and uncover Shadow Knife's true identity as Daiki Yamada. Shadow Knife used to be bullied due to his height, and these punishments are his twisted form of justice and retribution. Kotaro's sense of justice clashes with Shadow Knife's, leading them into a battle. As we reach the rooftop where Mu is present, Arya pleads with Mu to stop collecting negative emotions. Kotaro tries to capture Mu, but Shadow Knife interferes. A confrontation occurs and Shogo freezes up due to his past trauma involving Thorn. Mu attempts to kill us. Shadow Knife then challenges the group to battle and we win. Depending on the previous choice, Eiji, Kotaro, or Shadow Knife may die. After the battle, we regroup at the club room and the chapter ends with Naruko seeking comfort. This chapter explores the complexity of justice, contrasting Kotaro's belief in non-violence with Shadow Knife's pursuit of retribution. During our landmark tower exploration, we discovered 7 additional enigmas, opened 24 fragments, gathered 11 stigmas, and earned the Celestial Justice achievement. After we finish the chapter, we get access to the next set of character episodes. In them, we experience various emotional journeys in the Go Home Club members and Ostinato musicians. In Shogo's, he opens up about the bereavement trauma caused by his friend's Ishika's suicide. He struggles with guilt and visions of her jumping. After a heartfelt conversation with Chika, he finds closure and decides to confront his trauma. Kotono faces her mother's best friend who reveals her true intentions and finally apologizes. Kotono is reassured about her family and feels ready to return to the real world. Kotaro's trauma is revealed, where he suffers from a messiah complex and feels resentment towards his family and struggles with feelings of worthiness. By reminding him of his father, he realizes the importance of helping his cousin Yuto and doing right by his actions. Kensuke invites us to the aquarium where he confronts Blue Moon and wins with newfound conviction. He decides to return to reality. Mifune encounters her NPC mother at the aquarium and emotionally apologizes. The NPC's memory is miraculously restored and Mifune feels ready to leave Mobius. Suzuna confronts Kotaro about avoiding lunch together. With our support, she gains courage and decides to invite the whole Go Home Club for lunch. Izuru once again rejects our feelings of friendship, but later reveals his trauma, suffering from a schizoid personality disorder. Afterwards, he accepts our offer of help, noting the difference from his mother's imposing help. In the musician's character episodes, Sweet Pea embraces her true self and desire to open a ramen shop in the real world for people like her who love cute, dreamy stuff. Stork retires from his peeping and plans to correct his past actions by submitting the photos and himself to the police. With our help, Shonen-Doll gains the courage to communicate with Suzuna and actually starts a conversation with her. Mirei confronts her false victory, revealing the trauma of narcissistic personality disorder. She doesn't care how she wins as long as she doesn't lose. However, she starts to begin valuing wins through her own merits and reconciles with Toshizo. Ike-P opens up about his facial masculinity disorder and decides to help others instead of focusing on his appearance. Additionally, Thorn's background is explored further, hinting at a connection to Ichika and the bereavement trauma. In fact, Thorn is the spitting image of Ichika's. It's time for another farming session. We return to the tower and interact with some new students. We end up locating 27 extra students, recheck on former locked ones, and unlock a whopping total of 106 new traumas. We also collect 28 new stigmas and added the passwords for 4 more world reward doors. Our progression is the following. The next chapter begins with the Go Home Club regrouping at the club room, but to their surprise, Naruko is absent. As they discuss their next plan of action, now that Miu sees them as enemies, Shogo finally opens up about Ichika's tragic story. He reveals that Ichika, him, and their friend Natsume used to hang out in high school, but one day Ichika took her own life. Arya is confused, as Miu is unable to bring people back to life, and if Ichika were an NPC, they would have seen her as such, just like Mifue's mother and Kuchinashi's family. This raises doubts about Thorn's true identity. Overwhelmed by memories, Shogo breaks down. Suddenly, a shriek from outside catches their attention, and they realize that they are locked in the club room. A disturbing song begins playing through the speakers, revealed to be Wicked's twisted creation. The members wonder if Naruko, who is still missing, could help them, but before they can investigate further, they receive a taunting message from Naruko herself claiming betrayal. Confusion then ensues as the club members suspect Naruko of being Wicked. Wicked's plan is to starve them and turn them into digiheads, while her unsettling song continues to play relentlessly. Their situation becomes increasingly dire. Just as desperation and isolation begin to take toll, Mirei Mizuguchi, whom they encountered earlier in the game, unexpectedly arrives at the club room. She informs them that she witnessed Naruko exhibiting a strange behavior, laughing and boasting about her betrayal. Mirei possesses the ability to see the rift as well and informs the club that Naruko is capturing everyone to brainwash them. Though it is a strange turn of events, the Go Home Club has no other options but to ask for Mirei's help in locating the key to escape. The club members start feeling the effects of hunger and isolation, but Mirei eventually returns with the key and some much needed food. Relief washes over them as they eagerly consume the meal apart from the protagonist. However, their relief quickly turns to shock as they discover that the food was laced with sleeping pills. Mirei, now revealed to be Wicked, unveils her true intentions. She engages the protagonist in battle, hoping to eliminate them before capturing the rest of the club members. Despite the odds, we emerge victorious, but Wicked manages to escape. When the other members regain consciousness, the protagonist explains the situation, and they immediately set out to rescue Naruko. Their journey takes them to the old building of the high school, where they explore its floors in search of Naruko and Wicked. After battling through the second and third floors, they finally reach the first one, where Arya senses Wicked and Naruko's presence in the gymnasium. However, it is locked, compelling them to venture into the eerie basement of the school. The basement is a dark and foreboding place infested with digi-heads. As they fight their way through the treacherous floor and collect fragments, they eventually reach the janitor's room where they find the gymnasium key. Returning to the first floor, we confront Wicked, who has been holding Naruko's hostage. Wicked threatens to kill Naruko, revealing that after the events involving Shadow Knife, Naruko was approached by Mirei, her classmate, who warned her that everyone would die if they returned to the real world. This explains Naruko's earlier message, causing the club members to realize that Wicked is a sadistic and manipulative individual who relishes in destroying friendships and despises the bonds people create. While Wicked is occupied with her monologue, Arya manages to free Naruko and she rejoins their party. Enraged, Wicked engages in battle with us, but her tactics prove to be relatively simple as she relies on avoidable bombs. Ultimately, we emerge triumphant and earn the A Pure Girl achievement. However, Wicked manages to escape from the school grounds. Naruko apologizes for all the trouble she has caused, but the club reassures her of their support. Deciding to take a break, we opt not to return to our usual hideout and instead head to the landmark tower to rest, regroup, and plan our attack on Thorn. Upon reaching the tower, we are once again summoned by Thorn. This is a point where refusal would result in being locked out of the rest of the musician route. Entering the musician's room, we encounter a recovered but guilt-ridden Shadow Knife who blames himself for accidentally killing Eiji. We are also introduced to Wicked, and shortly after, Thorn appears and orders us to go to the aquarium, where members of the Go Home Club are hunting lagards. However, this time, Thorn's orders take a dark turn. Instead of capturing them, we are instructed to kill our own comrades. The pairing in this round is evidently Wicked and Naruko. While Wicked despises human relationships, considering them fragile and weak, Naruko desperately seeks acceptance from her fans, even falling victim to Wicked's twisted games. Their pairing is further explored in the light novel released shortly after the release of the video game. During our exploration of the old building of the high school, we discovered 2 new enigmas, opened 13 fragments, gathered 3 new stigmas, and earned the A Pure Girl achievement. Before heading out to the aquarium to resume the Ostinato musician chapter, we do a farming session in Wicked's playground and locate 20 new students, unlock 21 traumas, and gather 12 extra stigmas. We also added the passwords for 4 more world rewards. This is our updated progression.
Upon arriving at the aquarium, we observe a significant change in Miu's demeanor, likely due to her absorption of negative emotions. She now possesses a quieter and lifeless personality. Nevertheless, she plays our song to initiate the laggard hunt. The party now includes Ike-P, who is reluctant to kill the Go Home Club members, Shadow Knife, who is still struggling with Eiji's death, and Wicked, fully committed to the killings.
Shadow Knife is a sword user, and like Izuru, he is capable of doing combos. But unlike Izuru, his combos are shorter, in exchange for doing more damage. He also has a powerful lifesteal buff skill, which makes him a good option for an offensive support character. Wicked uses makeshift bombs as weapons. She can be quite devastating to the enemy. She has a high attack stat, attacks from afar, and has several follow-up attacks that can produce a long chain of bomb throws. She can also poison and is capable of severely debuffing the enemy. She is a personal favorite of mine.
The atmosphere feels different, but we engage in battles along the way to raise Wicked and Shadow Knife's affinity to level 9 in order to complete their character episodes efficiently. We eventually meet Kensuke and Kotaro or Eiji, depending on who is alive at that point. Kotaro is visibly glad to see Shadow Knife recovered, while Kensuke understands our purpose. With Arya activating Overdose mode, we battle them. Once they are dealt with, Wicked attempts to kill Kensuke, but Shadow Knife's attitude irritates her, leading the enemy to escape. Ike-P prevents Wicked from pursuing further harm on Shadow Knife, which further infuriates her. She is completely out of it. Upon returning, Thorn berates us for not killing the club members, but expresses gratitude to Lucide for his song and the hunt, which manages to sustain Mobius for a little while. Annoyed by Thorn's arrogance, Wicked proposes that she be taking the dirty work now, and Thorn agrees, joining our party. Thorn instructs us to go to the landmark tower. We message Kotono, which confuses her, but the club agrees to go there as well. Before heading out to the tower though, we must complete Shadow Knife's and Wicked's storylines. Shadow Knife's first events make us follow him through some divine retribution towards some students. These events are quite strange as they take place before his chapter, but are not available at that time. He first attacks a male student because he likes to humiliate others, not noticing the hypocrisy of his actions. After that, he helps a female student when she ignores another calling for help, even though we also ignored her.
Finally, we see two students, with one threatening the other into shoplifting, just because he is bigger, even though Shadow Knife is doing the same. His sense of justice blinds him to his own hypocrisy.
The sixth event happens right after he returns from the hospital, where he is clearly shaken about what happened. We discover that he was once the biggest of his class. As he became the smallest, others began to be arrogant and bullying. He suffers from the edgelord trauma and associates the Go Home Club members to his middle school bullies. After Mew tells him Kotaro's wish to become big and strong, he becomes confused as to why he would protect evil people. He wishes now to know Kotaro's sense of justice and their differences. As such, we arrange a meeting between them. They talk, and Shadow Knife finally realizes that Kotaro is a bigger person than him through his actions alone. Although he is inspired by Kotaro, he knows that the Shadow Knife persona saved him, and as such, he vows to revitalize Shadow Knife as a true vigilante. Wicked's storyline revolves around her refusal to form friendships or alliances. However, we suggest becoming her accomplice, and she accepts, either wanting to break us or be left alone. The first mission, we see a friendship between two best friends get destroyed by some simple words. Next, she makes a group of guys fight each other to survive. And finally, she makes a pair of lovers break up and forget one another by brainwashing one of them. However, she fails and flies into a fit of rage. When testing her true self, we find out that every day she kills the copies of her parents here in Mobius. We ask her why, but she flips, not wanting us to understand her, which unlocks her trauma. She is a complete sociopath. After a while, she agrees to tell her story. She's been abused pretty much all of her life by her family, jumping from guardian to guardian, and it broke her into this mess. She relates to our invisibility as she also wears the mask of Mirei to hide Wicked. But one day, in the real world, someone saw through her facade and put her into a coma. Wicked's story ends as she begins preparation to watch Mobius get destroyed. Finally, we do one extra episode of Thorn where she tells us that she made up her mind and cannot talk to us any longer until we made our decision. It's either her or the Go Home Club.
Before starting the next mission, we do another round of talking to now unlocked students and unlock 40 new traumas, with 83 already resolved. Our progression is the following.
This chapter commences as Thorn, Shadow Knife, Wicked, and Lucide enter the landmark tower. Instead of playing our song, Thorn instructs Mew to play her song immediately, likely intending to further antagonize Shogo's mind. Prior to proceeding, Thorn utilizes the mind phones to brainwash Shadow Knife as he exhibits conflicting behavior and is deemed a risk to the success of her plan.
Our final party member is Thorn. Unfortunately, she doesn't get much use as she is only playable in this chapter until we reach the endgame. Like Suzuna, she uses a spear but has different skills. Her skills take longer to connect than Suzuna's, so timing is very important with Thorn. Stat-wise, she excels in every one of them in comparison to Suzuna. She is a very strong character. Our objective here is to reach the rooftop where the Go Home Club is located. Thorn desires to go there, but before we proceed we must raise her affinity to level 9 through battles. Once it reaches the maximum level, we make our way to the rooftop. There, we encounter the Go Home Club, and Thorn finally reveals her true intentions. As everyone's wishes have been fulfilled in Mobius, she seeks fulfillment of her own wish. The cast members' initial wishes upon entering Mobius are revealed, and Thorn argues with the club members that their desire to return home stems from Mobius fulfilling those wishes, rendering the real world unnecessary. She believes that if Ichika cannot exist in the real world should perish as well. Thorn aims to destroy the real world by utilizing a corrupted Mu and the metaverses. She recreates the moment that drove Shogo insane by jumping off the building, further fueling her destructive intentions. The Go Home Club split up to attend to Shogo, while Kotono, Kotaro, Mifue, and Izuru stay behind to battle us. This battle poses significant danger as we now face 4 formidable opponents instead of the usual 2. And after the battle, we unlock the achievement beginning of the end, even though they managed to escape. Upon returning to the musician's room, we discovered an unharmed Thorn, and she successfully brainwashed all of the remaining Ostinato musicians into submission, except for Mirei and Kuchinashi, as they did not oppose to her plan. The stage is now set for the final confrontation. We make our way back to the tower where we see the other members who recount their experiences without realizing that we were present as well. We inquire Shogo about Thorn's possible whereabouts, and he mentions Grand Guignol, a live music club inspired by the real Grand Guignol, a French theater renowned for its horror and macabre performances. We prepare ourselves for our ultimate dungeon, but before that we need to conclude each character's episodes within the Go Home Club. Shogo embarks on a final date with Chika, determined to break free from his self-imposed isolation for the past 13 years. Kotono enlists our help in launching a daytime bar to support her mother and son. We also discover that Ryosuke, the person at the aquarium, is Takun's father. Kotaro assists Yuto, who is now grateful and promises to train hard to become like his father. Kensuke decides to write a poem and eventually shares it with Bluemon, moving him to tears and reigniting his passion to pursue their dreams. Kensuke finally decides to refine his poems and transform them into music. Mifue expresses her gratitude by preparing a meal and can now eat without feeling remorse. Suzuna successfully organizes a lunch gathering for everyone and showcases her beautiful voice as a gesture of gratitude. Naruko persists in her writing despite the negative reviews from the internet trolls, finding solace in knowing that someone appreciates and pays attention to her work. She wishes to witness how things unfold with the Go Home Club in order to craft a truthful ending for her story. Izuru achieves a significant milestone by placing an order at a local cafe for himself, Arya, and the protagonist. He expresses his gratitude for our help, accepts his broken self, and is content that we accept him as well. By completing the final episode for each member of the Go Home Club, not only do we unlock their ultimate skill, but we also earn the achievement A Reason to Go Home. Before embarking on the final chapter, our current progress stands as follows.
This chapter is the final one of the game, and Grand Guignol is the final dungeon, where no further content unlocks except for the unique postgame. Our goal here is to progress through this dungeon until we reach the point of no return. Upon arriving at Grand Guignol, we immediately sense its eerie atmosphere, inspired by the real-life Grand Guignol in Paris, creating an unease feeling among us. Miu has designed it to be a massive and disorienting place. Shogo reveals that Ichika used to perform her music here in the past, before virtual dolls existed, and would listen to indie bands. Thorn begins playing her song, causing Shogo to momentarily collapse but quickly recovers, determined to discover if Thorn is the ghost of Ichika or someone else entirely. We start our exploration in the southern corridor of Lament, where locked doors impede our progress with their formidable energy. It turns out that the brainwashed musicians are gathered here, and we must defeat them again to advance. We encounter the first available musician, Ch.20 in the floral room, after traversing the southern and western corridors. Despite our efforts, Ch.20 remains brainwashed and we engage in battle. These mini-bosses resemble their main counterparts and we defeat them easily. After the battle, Ch.20 regains her senses and Mifue apologizes for her previous behavior back at Papiko. They reconcile and promise to meet for a real tea party in the real world. Ch.20 provides our first hint about Thorn, implying that Thorn, like her, may not have the same physical appearance in the real world. Next up is Shonen-Doll, whom we reach by returning to the western corridor of Lament and ascending to the corridor of the Wise Men. We thoroughly explore this area and eventually encountering Shonen-Doll in the Wise Men room. Similar to Ch.20, he is under the influence of the brainwash and startles Suzuna, leading to another battle. After the battle, Suzuna expresses her disappointment that they fought despite their promise to have lunch together. Shonen-Doll reassures her of his desire to return to the real world and warns about Thorn's intelligence and cunning. Shonen-Doll's defeat paves the way for the next musician, and our exploration continues. We return to the western corridor and explore the northern one, where we find Miu's final remnants. Completing this part grants us the Miu's Wish achievement. Moving to the eastern corridor of Lament, we gather as much as we can before encountering Ike-P in the Divine Being's room. Ike-P is in a disoriented state, and we battle him to restore his sanity. After the battle, we inform him about Thorn's manipulation, and he expresses anger at being used as a tool. Ike-P believes Thorn is a man in the real world based on her voice when addressing Miu directly. Shogo finally realizes Thorn's true identity as Natsume, another friend of Ichika and himself. Ike-P encourages Izuru one last time before we head out to Thorn's location. Returning to where we found the previous Miu's remnant, we hear Stork peeping at Ayana, angering her and leading to a battle. After defeating him, Ayana dismisses him, and we proceed. In the Madman's room, Mirei greets us and the usual conflict with Kotono arises. Wicked then appears attempting to harm Kotono, but Naruko intervenes and protects her. We battle both the musicians and emerge victorious. Surprisingly, they were not brainwashed and had been trying to avoid returning to the real world for their own personal reasons. The final obstacle before Thorn is the Sorrow Gate, where Kuchinashi appears to impede our progress. She lacks motivation to return to the real world but expresses gratitude towards Ayana for saving her. We battle her and emerge victorious. With Thorn as the last challenge, we have reached the point of no return. However, before continuing, we must address some side tasks. Grand Guignol is a dungeon where the focus is on Shogo and Thorn. Both are deeply affected by Ichika's loss. Thorn accepted her death and chose to remain in Mobius, while Shogo tried to deny the truth but now desires to go home. To conclude, we engage in Thorn's final episode, conversing with her one last time. Thorn appears to be unstable and excited about the outcome of our ultimate decision. By maximizing our relationship with Thorn, we have completed the character episodes of all the Ostinato musicians, earning
D. Feeling caged in a song achievement. During our last exploration venture, we discovered 10 enigmas, opened 60 fragments, and collected 17 stigmas. By this point, we have now reached the point of no return. Personally, I deemed it appropriate to engage in our final farming session. During this session, we collected the drops from the last remaining enemies, opened the final soul fragments, and discovered the last enigma. By finding all of the enigmas, we attained the achievement known as Global Investigator. In terms of completion, we have successfully gathered every enigma and unlocked every soul fragment within the game by this point. Furthermore, we have successfully unlocked all of the World Rewards doors by entering the correct passwords, as well as granting us access to the remaining students and their respective traumas. With this accomplishment, we are now fully prepared to confront the Causality Link, reaching the maximum level of connection with all 524 students. Before commencing this significant task, let us take a moment to review our updated progress. To recap, the Causality Link encompasses all the students residing in Mobius, including club members and musicians, each burdened by their own trauma. While there are a total of 101 different traumas across the 503 students, the solution to these traumas are often straightforward and can be resolved quickly. Some traumas require equipping a specific stigma or using a combination of stigmas to the NPCs. Others can be resolved by interacting with enigmas, engaging in conversation or battles with certain NPCs, or raising the affinity of adjacent students. Matchmaking trauma students with other trauma students is also a possible solution. For the sake of simplicity in this video, we will group them based on method of solution. Our Causality Link journey begins with a total of 92 traumas already solved, with 19 being from the main cast and 73 from the NPCs. The following traumas are solved by equipping stigmas on the NPCs: dual personality, insatiability, and pathological lying, solved with stigmas gathered at the main building of the high school. Androphobia, hero syndrome, and perversion, with stigmas gathered during our first visit at Papico. Cell phone addiction, condescension, forceful happiness, and jealousy, with stigmas gathered at the library. Grand scale murder, besides the stigma, requires us to interact with the newspaper enigma afterward. Tough exterior, with a stigma gathered at the aquarium. Acerbic tongue, and zero self-esteem, with stigmas gathered at our second visit to Papico. Arrogant monarch, false mask syndrome, first place obsession, obsessive compulsive disorder, and synesthesia abnormality, with stigmas gathered at the landmark tower. Fantasy complex, Judas complex, kleptomania, pessimism, and troublesome gossiper, with stigmas gathered at the old building of the high school. Anomalous love, fanaticism, idolization infatuation, loneliness, and responsibility deficit disorder, with stigmas gathered at Grand Guignol. Plebeian dilemma requires us to match the NPC with someone carrying the arrogant monarch or conformity traumas after equipping the stigma. Next up, there are the traumas solved by interacting with specific enigmas. Hyperthemesia, solved inside of the main building of the high school. Destructive compulsion and downward spiral, solved in Papico's first section. Attention seeker, homicidal maniac, mad artist, Munchausen syndrome, and partisanship, solved inside of the library. Apparition delusion and diminished presence, solved inside of the landmark tower. And frenemy dilemma, solved at the Grand Guignol. The following traumas are solved by talking to an NPC and are as follows: miserly behavior, musical misfortune, psychological intimidation, sword addiction, tragic heroine, and walking disaster are solved by talking to an NPC found in the first section of Papiko. Gynophobia has an additional step and requires us to match a student with a female student connected through the Causality Link. Angelic Possession and Lacunar Desire are solved by talking to an NPC found inside of the library. Spiritual Possession is solved inside of the aquarium. Love Amnesia is solved during the second portion of Papiko. Troublemaker is solved by talking to an NPC inside of the Landmark Tower. Masochism, Pleasure Addiction, and Toxic Love are solved inside of Grand Guignol. The traumas involving battling the same specific NPCs are as follows. Hypocrisy, by battling the bullies found at the main building of the high school. Eloquent Deception, by battling the con artist found at Papiko. Sleepwalking, by battling the hypnotist at the library. Tyranny and Bullying, by fighting NPCs found at the Landmark Tower. Nightmare Disorder is solved by battling the nightmare found in the old building of the high school. Demonic Possession and Hallucinosis are solved by battling NPCs found in Grand Guignol. Next up, there are two specific traumas that don't match any of the groups. Alexithymia, which is solved by battling 20 different enemies, and Self-Harm, which is solved by raising the student's level to 20. The next group of traumas involve us matchmaking two students with specific conditions. Matching with someone of the opposite sex carrying a specific trauma. These traumas are adulation, elitism, impulsive fraudster, love addiction, love aversion, permanent preservation, philanderer, romantic manipulation, and sadism. Matching with someone of the same sex carrying a specific trauma, we have collective destruction, double suicide threat, forgetfulness, friend dependency, and tattletale affliction. Finally, the last group of traumas requires us to raise the affinity level of linked students to level 3 or maximum level. We left these for last, as after solving all of the other traumas they become a simple matter of summoning the student and immediately solving them. Such traumas we solved include anthropophobia, apathy, childhood affection loss, Debbie Downer, duplicitous air, femme fatale, god complex, grief, imaginary friend syndrome, incessant distrust, incest taboo, multiple personality disorder, paparazzi penchant, social anxiety disorder, social media syndrome, stalking, suicidal ideation, and yaoi addiction. The exception is the soulless classmate trauma, which requires us to maximize Suzuna's affinity by clearing all of her episodes. After approximately 14 hours of gameplay of solving traumas, we unlocked a total of 523 traumas, solved 500 of them, and gained 245 passives. Additionally, we earned the A World Surrounded by Close Friends achievement by reaching a star affinity level with over 100 students. Our stats now stand as follows. Next in our progression are the World Reward bosses. As mentioned earlier, these are single enemies, often high level, that are locked behind pink doors. To unlock these doors, we need to farm a specific area for password drops or input the passwords. Each door requires 3 passwords, and fortunately, these passwords can be found online. Although they are bosses, they can be treated as enemies since they are vulnerable to stuns and poison. By having Naruko and Izuru in our party, they become easier to handle. Each boss drops a stigma per playthrough, which is crucial for obtaining the best equipment in slot. To acquire all of the stigmas necessary to build all of the 20 characters in this game, I had to replay the game a total of 10 times before starting the second run with the female protagonist. These bosses represent students who were consumed by their traumas and transformed into remnant captives instead of becoming digiheads like other students. They are bound by their remnants rather than the opposite, making them the opposite of the soul fragments. Before reaching the endings, we managed to clear every world boss except the ones at Grand Guignol. Here are the bosses we defeat in each location. 3 bosses at the main building of the high school, such as Ike-Mophobia, Sleepless Habits, and Bondage Obsession. 3 at Papico, Eager Atonement, Nescient, and Narcolepsy. 2 bosses at the hot springs, Phonophobia and Labyrinthitis. 3 at the library, Actually, Trypophobia and Line. 2 at the Sun Temple, such as Nobody to Talk to and Pulchophobia. 3 at the Aquaria, such as Piniophobia, Pica Disorder, and Sleeping Disorder. 4 at the Landmark Tower, Anthropophobia, Shapeshifter Conundrum, Unrequited Love Taboo, and My One and Only Forever. Finally, we battled 2 at the old building of the high school, All-In Dilemma and Unusual Hair Collector. In total, we defeated 22 optional bosses and obtained 22 extra stigmas before proceeding to the endings. Our overall progression stands as follows. It is finally time to witness the endings. We make our final push to enter the door at the top of the stairs. On the other side, we confront Thorn and Mew, who are gathering negative emotions. Shogo confronts Thorn, who is revealed to be Natsume, drowning in grief and traumatized by Ichika's death. When Natsume entered Mobius, he wished to see Ichika again, but Mew cannot bring back the dead in Mobius. So he discarded his true self and became Thorn, embodying Ichika in order to keep her alive and help others, in a sort of goddess complex. However, due to the increasing rifts, Mobius could not last forever. Natsume has gone mad and chosen to destroy the world that took his friend's life before Mobius could be destroyed. Afterwards, Thorn commands Mew one last time to destroy the real world. She consumes the last bit of negative emotions and transforms into a darker version of herself, flying towards the metaverses to carry out the plan. As we try to enter the metaverses, we face a decision: to go home or stay in Mobius. For now, we will see the true ending and choose to go home. Disappointed, Thorn wants to erase us. She attempts to stop us through battle, hitting hard. However, we defeat her quickly, earning the achievement, This Unwavering Feeling. After the battle, Thorn regains her senses through the power of Catharsis Effect. She realizes her mistakes and begs us to stop Mew before leaping off the edge. This shocks Shogo, but we headbutt him to snap him out of it, just as he did to us at the beginning of the game. With renewed determination, the Go Home Club heads out to the metaverses to confront Mew. We plead one last time for Mew to stop the world's destruction, but she has absorbed too many negative emotions and cannot comprehend how humanity can be happy in the real world. She's completely mad. Unfortunately, the only way to push forward is through battle. And we engage in our final fight against Mew. After defeating Mew the first time, she refuses to surrender and becomes even more stronger, overwhelmed by the negative emotions she has gathered. Her second phase is a flashy one, but easy to handle, and we defeat her, earning the achievement Wishes End. After the battle, Mew accepts our wish, and through the Catharsis Effect, we manage to save her and return her to her normal state. She embraces Arya and expresses her gratitude. Concerned for us, she asks us one final time if we want to go home and reassure her that we want to. The Go Homes say their final goodbyes, promising to keep in touch. Mew opens the exit of Mobius and sends everyone in Mobius back home as we watch the credits roll. After the credits, we see an epilogue in the form of a wire group chat. It seems that Mew and Arya's parting gift is keeping the group chat alive so that everyone can reconnect. The club starts planning their real-world venture in Ciparaíso as a final cutscene of vignettes starts playing. This cutscene features unknown figures, however, by clearing every character episode we can infer of their identities. Here is what we see. First, we see Shogo coming out of his shelter to buy a magazine. Then, a bandaged Izuru shopping for clothes with a blonde Ike-P working beside him. If Kotaro is alive, he is either on the hill watching someone train or is the person trained to become a rescueman like his father. Kensuke is in a subway reading a music magazine. Kotono is seen picking up Takun while a somber Mirei passes by. Naruko dropping her phone to start writing her true story. Mifue leaving her house looking much healthier and hungry, with her mom bringing her forgotten lunchbox. Suzuna using her voice to invite her entire class to have lunch with her. Ayana entering a subway train, choosing the carriage with most men. We also see Mifue and Sweet Pea having a tea party, Shonen-Doll waiting for Suzuna at her classroom to eat bento together. Stork at the police station peeping one last time at the female detective while handing out the collective photo evidence to incriminate Eiji and Tadokoro. Kuchinashi at her family grave offering her respects and crying, while a shogo walks behind her. We see Wicked still in a coma while her uncle watches over her, implying that she woke up. Mirei dropping a piece of paper which Takun picks up for her. She thanks him and his mom, unaware that she is Kotono. If Shadow Knife is alive, he passes by a robbery but initially ignores it. However, upon seeing a poster of the real Shadow Knife, he turns back to save the person being robbed. If Eiji is alive, we also see him getting released from prison with a big smile on his face. We see Shogo at either Ichika's or Natsume's grave, offering his prayer. Finally, we see the protagonist looking at their wire group chat as the camera pans out and reveals Mew and Arya in their true form. The game ends and we unlock the post-game and the New Game Plus feature. After experiencing this happy feeling ending, we decide to explore the other one by loading our clear save data and making the choice to betray the Go Home Club and stay in Mobius. As obvious, we shock everyone by revealing ourselves as Lucid, the invisible musician, and we slowly approach Thorn. Thorn laughs maniacally while the rest of the party falls into despair. Each member goes through stages of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and finally acceptance. Arya, the angriest of them all, activates the catharsis effect Overdose on all of our comrades, forcing us to fight them. It is a difficult task as we had developed some attachment to these characters. The first battle is against Kotono, Kotaro or Eiji, and Naruko. Kotono feels foolish for trusting us, while Naruko refuses to believe we deceived her. Kotaro considered us family, and Eiji, if alive, is furious as he thought he had the upper hand on us. These fights are similar to the previous ones, so targeting the more dangerous opponents first will make them easier. Next up, we face Mifue, Ayana, and Suzuna. Mifue is furious at us for deceiving them. Suzuna believes Thorn is controlling us. And Ayana, depending on our gender, either remarks that all men are awful or despairs over falling in love with the female protagonist. Next up are Kensuke and Izuru. Izuru is baffled by our decision after all the help we provided him, feeling true hatred towards us for the first time. Kensuke sees the irony in him betraying the musicians only to be betrayed by us in return. Finally, it's Shogo's turn. After witnessing the downfall of his comrades, he accepts the truth. We betrayed everyone and he wonders if it was all planned from the start. With no other choice, he battles us, and we defeat the last of the Go Home Club members, earning the dreadful achievement Friends in a Past Life. After these battles, Arya leaps into the metaverses and regains her true form in a final attempt to stop Mew. As Thorn and Us arrive, Arya's hatred towards Us leads her to activate Overdose on herself, initiating a final battle against her. We defeat her and witness Mew taking control of all of the metaverses, wreaking havoc in the real world through the internet. We earn the achievement, One Who Reverts All to Zero. The ending then plays out, as everyone continues their lives in Mobius, seemingly unaware of the chaos and disaster unfolding in the real world. We once again see a graduation ceremony with everyone present, both club members and musicians, blissfully ignorant of the reports coming through the speakers. Eventually, everyone disappears, likely due to their deaths in the real world, leaving Mobius empty. Thorn jumps from the tower one last time, effectively killing herself, and the protagonist is left in an NPC-like state. As Mew realizes the consequences of her action, she screams and the credits roll. Without an epilogue, the world truly ends in this route. After enduring that terrible ending and doing our best to forget it, we can unlock the dreams of a songstress scenario by loading the clear save data and heading out to the train station. There, we encounter Mew and have a conversation with her. She shares that she had a frightening dream, most likely referring to the bad ending. We agree with her desire for harmony between the musicians and the Go Home Club members, which grants us the ability to include both groups in our party. AG also rejoins the party, and we prepare ourselves to complete the remaining Causality Link, tackle the rest of the world reward bosses, face the newly unlocked post-game bosses, and maximize our party roster of 20 members. Surprising, isn't it? This adventure is far from over. It is now time to tackle the post-game. To summarize it concisely, we first defeat the world bosses of Grand Guignol, utilizing the combination of Go Home Club members and musicians in our party to unleash powerful combos. This grants us their stigmas and completes our collection of attack impulses and defense instincts. Next up, we focus on resolving the remaining 24 students' traumas by addressing the trauma of the 21 class presidents. We achieve the School Sleuth achievement and obtain all the passives in the Causality Link. The remaining side content involves us battling post-game bosses, which are upgraded version of the story bosses. We defeat them one by one, gaining a special stigma in the form of amplifications. These battles follow a consistent strategy, with Kotono, Wicked, Kuchinashi, and the protagonist or Lucid playing specific roles in our party. We then repeat the final boss rush of the Ostinato musician route, facing off against various characters in separate battles. Each victory grants us an amplification stigma. After accumulating a total of 133 hours of gameplay, we have completed all of the Causality Link, side content, and item content. It is now time to tackle the most time-consuming part of this run, which is to improve the characters to their maximum potential. As such, we have to level them up to level 200, maximize their skills, and equip gear that complements their stats and role in battle. This requires a dedicated, grinding, and multiple playthroughs of the game to obtain copies of stigmas from world reward and post-game bosses. During the grinding process, we focus on maximizing the experience gain by having non-party members receive half of the experience and utilizing XP boosting stigmas and passives. We target the enemies that offer the most experience, such as the Perfectionist and the Speedster world reward bosses. In addition to leveling up, we meticulously plan out character development, prioritizing A rank stats followed by B rank stats. We categorize characters into DPSers, tanks, healers, and supports, and optimize their progression accordingly. After completing the grinding session and skill maximization, we have completed all of the characters portion of this run. After accumulating 210 hours of gameplay, we decide to embark on a new Game Plus adventure. We reload our clear data and choose the female character, opting for the extreme difficulty to add an extra challenge with enemies boosted by 100 levels. During this playthrough, I followed a familiar path, unlocking the musician's route, revisiting all of the episodes and once again banishing AG. I tackled the world bosses as they became available and collected every soul fragment, discarding any extras until we reached the Sorrow Gate in Grand Guignol. To my surprise, I didn't encounter a significant difficulty from these options. While our attacks dealt considerable damage, a single hit from an enemy's assault raid or multi-hit move would result in a knockout. This made me realize that stats only hold a significance up to a certain point. By lowering the enemy's accuracy, we were able to breeze through the game without much trouble. However, we did experience a game over twice along the way. Eventually, we triumph over Thorn and Mew, reliving the Go Home Club ending once more and attaining our final achievements, Rebirth and the Caligula Effect Overdose. For extra credit, we then reload the game to pursue the alternate ending, unlocking Dreams of a Songstress mode, and we fully proceed to battle the post-game bosses once again, showcasing our fully upgraded characters and finally concluding our journey of completion and beyond. This marks our first successful venture into completing video games. We earn our first ever Diamond Trophy. And that concludes our journey through the Caligula Effect Overdose, a game that has consumed a staggering amount of 383 hours of gameplay, from unraveling the secrets of Mobius to confronting the challenges of high school life. We have left no stone unturned in our quest for completion. I hope you've enjoyed me on this adventure as we push the boundaries of what it means to truly conquer a game. Together we have embarked on an extraordinary quest, surpassing the basic 100% completion and diving into the depths of this immersive RPG. If you have enjoyed our journey through this game and want to see more epic completionist quests, make sure to hit that like button and leave a comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on our future adventures and which games you'd like to see us conquer next. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to stay updated on our future quests. Together, let's continue embracing the joy of conquering every virtual challenge. This is Dr. Otter signing off. Stay committed, stay determined, and let's continue our quest for completion together.